Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Women Empowering Nation's 15-year celebration, The Power of 15, honoring our past and celebrating our future. I'm Janae Spencer, a proud Women Empowering Nations, Girls Leading Our World alumna, and now the program coordinator with Women Empowering Nations. Let's kick things off by seeing who's in the room. Drop your city or your country in the chat and tell us where you're tuning in from. It's an honor to be here tonight as we celebrate 15 years of Women Empowering Nations' impact on young women around the world. Our mission is to provide exposure, development, and mentorship for girls of color, accelerating their path to executive leadership and social impact. Throughout the evening, you'll hear from incredible women who are shaping the world and young leaders stepping into their power. This is also a night to raise critical support for WIN's programs. As you listen, think about how your generosity can keep this important work going strong. The donation link is in the chat. Feel free to contribute at any time. Every gift counts, no matter how big or how small. Now, to officially kick off, I'm honored to introduce the woman who started it all, our founder and executive director, Carlisha Bradley. Carlisha is an award-winning executive, best-selling author, and social impact leader. She founded Women Empowering Nations in 2009, and under her leadership, WIN has provided life-changing leadership development for over 9,000 girls across 40 countries. Let's give a warm welcome to Carlisha in the chat.
Thanks, Janae, for that warm welcome. I am so excited to be here with you all tonight as we celebrate 15 years of Women Empowering Nations. I see our young women from all over the world. I see GLOW girls in the room from the United States, Oklahoma. I see you, DC. I see girls from Nigeria, Ghana, the UK. Oh, and we've even got France in the room. I am just honored to have you all here with us tonight as we think back over the history of Women Empowering Nations and celebrate the future of where we're going. Tonight, we are also joined by trailblazing women who will be pouring into us this evening as we celebrate their legacy and impact of changing the lives of girls and women around the world. But as we talk about the 15-year journey and where this all began in 2009 in a small country in the continent of Africa in the Gambia, I can say that Women Empowering Nations had some pretty humble beginnings. And it's amazing to see the ripple effect of global impact that we have had on young women around the world. To date, we've impacted over 9,000 young women in over 40 countries and counting. But as we reflect on the past, let's go ahead and roll a clip to take you all back there. Rather than me talk about it, let's show you where Women Empowering Nations has been.
The president of Liberia once said, "If you educate a man, you educate a family and a village. To educate a woman, you empower a nation." So in 2009 we started. It was myself, Don, and Jason, video camera, a bumpy taxi ride, and 30 girls in an outdoor classroom in Gambia where we started the literacy and empowerment program. Then we tried again in 2011 and we worked with another school with a partnership there. It grew to about 40 girls at that point. But in 2013 was really the birth of the work that we're deep ingrained in right now, which included the year-long mentor program for girls and also taking those girls on the travel seminar, stopping in Morocco, and then we went to the Gambia to do a week-long conference with young women there, and we had partnered with schools as well on the ground. And now we come back up to 2016. We went to Amsterdam, the Netherlands, took another group of girls. It was a group of 10. And then we also went to Tanzania and partnered with an orphanage, did a multiple day conference where our girls went to school with the Tanzanian girls in the morning and we had our conference in the afternoon. We lived alongside them for the week that we were visiting there. And now here we are in 2018 on the eve of a decade of Women Empowering Nations, working with 60 young women from 3 different schools in Ghana. We've brought over girls from the United States, and we've also ramped up the amount of mentors who are coming. It's an experience not just for young girls, but also for young adult women who want to be a part of this path to change alongside us. So we call these experiences a travel seminar because it is much more than just a trip. We take our young women and want for them to be immersed in the culture, being able to have tangible experiences of not only building relationships beyond borders, but also digging into the history, learning more about themselves, their ancestors, and connecting with learning opportunities that transform their view of the world around them.
Wow, it's truly amazing to see where Women Empowering Nations started and how far we've come. I'm honored to have been part of this journey. Back to you, Carlisha, to continue taking us on Women Empowering Nations' 15-year journey.
So as we look from our beginning of Women Empowering Nations, we've talked about the stories and the impact of other young women. When we fast forward to 2020, a lot changed for many of us. We entered into a global pandemic and we shifted the way that we continue to do our work. While we had originally had Girls Leading Our World programs in schools, and we moved from on-site programs internationally to school-based programs and travel seminars for young women. Once the pandemic hit in 2020, we halted a travel seminar that we had planned that year. And it was actually a beautiful pivot point into the ways in which Women Empowering Nations utilizes the power of technology. In 2021, we had a pilot GLOW Global Cohort where we brought together 15 emerging leaders from all over the world to go through a leadership development curriculum and course. Then in 2022, we were grateful to partner with Cantu Beauty and PDC Brands to expand this cohort. We not only offered a cohort that year, we also provided a fellowship experience, which allowed for some of the young women to have the privilege of interning with the brand, learning more about the ins and outs of the industry. And we also hosted a travel seminar to Accra, Ghana, where we provided the opportunity for young women to travel abroad, to serve, to be in sessions with executives, to grow their network, their leadership on their path to social impact. It was powerful. And I actually want to show you that moment. So we're going to run that clip and I'll come back and share a bit more. I'm excited to recap the 2022 GLOW Global Fellowship Travel Seminar to Accra, Ghana in partnership with Cantu Beauty.
With this experience, I'm more confident of trying things outside of my country because I believe I'm a global leader. So it has boosted my confidence in trying out new things, rising up early, how to work in teams, asking questions and getting feedback. It has helped me a lot that as a leader, you should be willing to ask for help.
I'm Nigerian, and also there's a part of Nigeria where you get to see the whole slave trade, and so seeing this in Ghana also just kind of connects. And yes, this is what my ancestors would have wanted for themselves, and now I am living that dream. I am free, I'm able to speak up, I have a voice, which is what they wanted to have, but they did not have that opportunity.
I would say that it has taught me to continue to grow and always be willing to learn more and push myself out of my comfort zone. I think moving forward for my career trajectory as someone who wants to pursue social justice and make the world a better place, that I can do it, and I can do it in support of other people around me.
The reason why programs like this are so important, it just really dates back to my parents, and they said too much is given, much is required. So it is a requirement for us to give back, as so many people have given to us all around the world.
Seeing their travel experiences takes me back to my first travel seminar with Women Empowering Nations as part of the GLOW Global Cohort. I had the opportunity to travel abroad for the first time to South Africa, and it's a time that I'll never forget. I not only had the opportunity to serve myself, but to serve others, and I had the opportunity to connect with my Global Cohort sisters. Speaking of inspiring Glow Girls, it's time to share our Rising Star Legacy Award winners. Tonight, we're honoring two of our GLOW Global Cohort alumni who are making an impact in their communities. I am honored to introduce our first Rising Star, Denaya Smith. Denaya is a nationally recognized activist, grassroots organizer, and public speaker with a passion for blending law, digital media, and community organizing to drive social change. She is a 2024 Obama Foundation Voyager and a student at American University, majoring in political science with a minor in African American studies. Denaya's dedication to education justice and gender equity has led her to leadership roles on the global stage. She is the founder and host of She Shall Speak, a podcast that brings critical conversations on Black womanhood, leadership, and social justice to audiences in 25 US states and 20 countries. As an aspiring public servant, Denaya's experiences include working with the Office of the Vice President of the United States, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, and Policy Link. Turning it back to you, Carlisha, as we honor my GLOW sister, Denaya Smith.
So we are here with Denaya Smith. Denaya, welcome into the room. I'm so excited to have you with us tonight.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so excited to be here in community with all of you and to be celebrating this moment.
So as we think about 15 years of Women Empowering Nations, of course, we wanted to spotlight our Rising Star Legacy Award winners, GLOW Global Cohort members who are literally changing the game, and you are one of them. And so, Denaya, I first want to kick off. We've already talked about your work and read your bio and heard the amazing things that you're doing, but I'd love to know more of what inspired you to lead this impactful work.
So talking a little bit more about my journey into this space, my immersion into advocacy and activism began in 2020. It was the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless Black and Brown individuals throughout the years that led me to this space. I did a march in my town advocating for Black Lives Matter, and afterwards I started a grassroots educational equity organization that allowed young people to work with our school administrators to make the school system that worked and operated for us. And this small immersion in my local community was a catalyst. It made me realize the power that we all have to enact impactful change. And so as I continued across my advocacy journey, doing political work and getting involved in gender equity movements, both in the US and abroad, I slowly realized that Black women are at the backbone of this movement for social change. And yet we're often diminished, we're often isolated, and we're often not commemorated for the work that we're doing. So that allowed me to pivot my focus into realizing how can we invest in the leadership capacity of young Black women and girls from Gen Z, and how can we make sure that they have the platform, the resources, and the encouragement to become the leaders that are eventually going to transform the world.
So powerful, and as I think about our award winners here tonight and the movement that you're building for young women, I think about Jotaka's movement of the 44,000 who gathered, and I believe you were in the room. Were you in the room?
I was in the room, yes.
I think about where you are right now, Denaya, at such a young age, but if you were to fast forward years into the future, what do you hope is the legacy that you will leave behind?
I hope to leave behind a legacy that's twofold. I want to leave behind a legacy that's empowering. I don't want to be someone who's just up on a pedestal of some power or prestige. I want to be someone that's involved in the community. I want to be doing philanthropy work that's really investing in the lives of Black women and girls. And I also want to leave behind a legacy that is reflective of systemic change. I seek to become a lawyer and get involved in the civil rights and advocacy realm and to really ensure that Black and Brown lives are centered in legal decisions in this country. And so I hope that my legacy is twofold in seeing systemic changes that make it so that Black women and girls can lead more equitable lives, and that I'm tangibly impacting the lives of others who have come after me.
I really appreciate your focus on systemic change. A lot of time we can talk about new programs, new efforts, but building that lens to be able to look at the system, to evaluate it, to advocate, to push towards systems change is what is going to move the lever. And we know at Women Empowering Nations, as we're investing in the next generation of social impact leaders, we want to see social impact leaders who are driving for systems level change. And so I know that you have been experienced in Women Empowering Nations from the cohort to the fellowship. You came back as a coach. You have spoken and mentored our cohorts. How has Women Empowering Nations supported you on your leadership journey?
In so many ways. I could talk on and on and on, but I think to keep it concise, when I first joined Women Empowering Nations in 2022, I was still in high school. I was a high school junior, senior. I was just getting out of my early academic career. And now I stand about to graduate from undergrad. And I can attest that this program has really been influential in allowing me to stay motivated and encouraged by women that are like-minded, of women who have shared goals and values, and women that can actually test me and challenge me in ways. Coming back into the cohort as a coach, I find myself finding encouragement in moments of doubt and hesitation, of having the energy to push forward and move on past the challenges that I've experienced, and ultimately just being able to have joy and laugh with sisters. And I think the power of the One Network is that it has become a sisterhood. 2 years after my cohort, I've seen women that I know become members of the GLOW Network. I've found women that I didn't know before, but I have really close and strong connections with, that are all united by this web that has become Women Empowering Nations. So it's a long way to say I'm incredibly grateful for this program. It truly has become a sisterhood unlike no other.
When you just said you're graduating from undergrad, I remember your application. I remember your application when you were in high school, and time has just really flown by. But we are so grateful for the ways that this network does come together. It's like a sisterhood, and you all continue to pour into each other and open doors for one another and be champions for one another. And that is the power of this moment and this space. And so as we think about that sisterhood, as we think about spaces, which you mentioned earlier, for Black girls and women to thrive, to be seen, for their voices to be amplified, why is it important for us to invest in Black girls and women?
I think of the Combahee River Collective, and for folks that are in the call that are unfamiliar, the Combahee River Collective was a group of intersectional feminists in the 1970s, 1980s, and their theory of change was that if Black women are at the bottom of the totem pole in our society, if we amplify and invest in the voices of those that are at the bottom, it can then trickle up to the top and it can impact everybody. And so I view it as Black women and girls experience a double marginalization based upon our race and upon our gender. If we invest in the leadership capacity of Black women and girls, that's not only going to impact us, that's going to impact the communities that we're a part of and the communities that we are bound to go into. And so when we make the decision to invest in our leadership, to invest in our stories and our voices and the issues that matter to us, it actually has the capacity to shake barriers and to really lead forth in the changes that we need to see in our society.
Absolutely. You were spot on. Well, thank you so much, Janaya, for being with us tonight.
Of course. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
I told y'all, Danaya is powerful. Her journey and impact are ones we can all take inspiration from as we strive to be the change we want to see in the world. Danaya is a shining example of why your support matters. These examples of leadership and innovation are possible because of programs like GLOW, and we need your help to continue providing access to young women around the world. Your generosity tonight can create a ripple effect. I would love to hear from you. What was your favorite part of Danaya's story? Or just drop a word in the chat on how her story made you feel. All right, buckle up, everyone. We're going from New Jersey to Nigeria for our next Rising Star Award winner. The power of technology brought our next award winner into the Women Empowering Nations family when she joined the GLOW Global Cohort in 2023, which is my same cohort. Tonight, we're honoring another one of my GLOW sisters, Oluwadimilola Akintiwe. We're going to see a clip from her cohort experience, and then I'll come back to share more about her.
Bringing together 50 leaders from 7 countries around the world. Hear reflections from some of our cohort members from around the world.
My cohort experience has been amazing.
The most important thing about this is really bringing Black women from all across the diaspora to be in community with one another, to support each other, motivate each other.
The session calls, you're blown away and you're like, this is my favorite session.
And then you go for the next one and then it exceeds it.
And you're like, no, forget it. This is my favorite session.
It feels like now in my journey, either professionally or personally, I have people that I can work with and that I'm never alone.
She's right. This community gives us a powerful network of social impact leaders on our journey. I'm excited to introduce Oluwadimilola Akintiwe. Oluwadimilola is a passionate advocate for youth leadership and women's rights. With over 6 years of experience in community peace building, economic empowerment, and equity programs. She is the founder of Project Rebirth, a social enterprise that provides skills acquisition and impact investment for women and youth-led businesses in marginalized communities across Nigeria. Additionally, she leads Forbidden Topics, a feminist collective amplifying youth voices against gender-based violence. Her work has earned her numerous international recognitions. She was selected as one of only 20 global recipients of the prestigious 2024 Princess Diana Legacy Award, which honors young people improving the lives of others. The award, established in 1999 in memory of Diana, Princess of Wales, is a mark of her exceptional impact. She is currently a student at law school, aspiring to be an attorney.
So I am so excited to bring Oluwadimilola to the stage as one of our 2024 Rising Star Legacy Award winners. Welcome. We're so happy to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here, really.
All the way from Nigeria, you have been blazing trails and your work is truly felt around the globe. We talked about when we introduced you all of the awards and the honors that you have received on your journey. And I can't tell you how proud I am of you, how proud I am of the light that you bring, not only for young women, but watching your journey has even inspired me on mine. And I would love to know, what led you to start doing this impactful work? What has called you to do this work?
Okay, so it started with me just finding organizations that had missions that I was passionate about: education, women empowerment. I started volunteering in my first year of undergrad, and from there on, I got to know about the UN SDGs, and I figured out what path I enjoyed working on, which is women's rights. And from there, from volunteering, in my third year, because I studied law, and in my third year, I created this seemingly pet project with a group of friends, which is to just, get our colleagues to train people for free. We were like, oh my God, do you want to contribute to your community? How about you give the skills for people skills that could change their life, literally? And that was how my organization was born, Project Rebirth. And the goal of the organization is just to give women the skill opportunity, like income generating skills and impact investment for them to be able to rebuild their lives. It's just in the name, Project Rebirth. And our target community are women in rural areas. Why is this so personal to me? I grew up with a farming sentiment. Both my parents are farmers, so I know firsthand the reality of those rural communities, how development do not get there. And there are people there, people with dreams, if only they know how possible their lives can be. And I am an example of that. So here I am. This is what has inspired this journey, because I know that we all want to do something with our lives. And my organization is my own way of paying forward the goodness that I have received from childhood, because I am a scholarship kid. I went to school on scholarships. I even went to law school on scholarship. So a lot of people have invested in me, and my organization is my way of paying it forward for other women so that they can also dream and soar and fly.
So talk to me a bit about how Women Empowering Nations has supported your journey as a social impact leader.
So I think the best thing that Women Empowering Nations gave to me was a sisterhood, like a community of women who are very passionate about something, be it social impact, be it their career. It could be in medicine, it could be in art. In fact, my programs manager was an alumni of Women Empowering Nations. So it is just a community of women, a sisterhood towards development. That is what I'm going to call it. And this year, as an alumni, I had a lot of people in my DMs who have reached out. We are already, brainstorming on how we can collaborate on a project based on our locations together. And this is so amazing. When you are from a very rural community where you rarely see people like you do great things, especially if you're a woman, if you're African, and you're coming from a community where they've told you there's a limit to what women can do, women are not fit for leadership or powerful positions. When you are in a community like Women Empowering Nations and you see other young women who are blazing trails in their fields, who are going above and beyond, it gives you this sense of acknowledgement, like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone, right? The things that I'm doing, there are other people that are doing the same. So when I step up to stages, I step up on that stage with confidence, no longer timid, no longer shy, no longer apologizing for the things that I do, because I am not alone. And this is the beauty of Women Empowering Nations community. It just gives me a vision of the future, of African women or women of African descent leading change, changing narratives and showing the world what we are capable of, how much impact we can make, even with little resources, right? Which is why it is important for us to, invest more in women.
So as we close out our conversation, I would love to know, is there anyone that you want to share this honor or moment with as we close out our conversation tonight?
Absolutely. I stand on the shoulders of women who have kept the door open for me. And this recognition, I really want to give it to my late mentor who passed away 2 years ago. She passed away in childbirth. Her name is Bukola Jegede. She was the president of the first organization I volunteered with in 2017. This woman saw in me things that I did not even see in myself as a young person who's just so much, who have so much passion, so much energy. And it's sometimes I feel sad that now that the impact of the investment she made in me that I can see it, she's no longer here. But I carry her in my heart everywhere I go. I see her in the works, in the community, in the women that I speak to. And I just hope she can see me now. So this honor is for her. Olubukola Jegede, I hope that you're proud of your investment. I hope that you're smiling from heaven. And I hope that I can continue to carry your legacy of women empowerment. Thank you so much. I'm not gonna cry.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you again and congratulations. We are so proud of you and elated about the ways that the impact and the investment in you has a ripple effect throughout your country and throughout our world. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Danaya and Oluwadimilola both connected to win through the power of technology. Technology continues to play a key role in our evolving world. WIN is building entrepreneurs and innovators who will tackle our world's greatest challenges, and they would not be in a position to blaze new trails without leaders like Sevetri Wilson Taylor. Sevetri Wilson Taylor is the founder of Resilia, a cutting-edge SaaS platform that empowers nonprofit organizations, helping them increase capacity and provides founders with tools to scale impact and offer technical assistance to their partners. Resilia quickly gained recognition, being named one of VentureBeat's top startups to watch in 2019 and a rising star on the 2020 Forbes Cloud 100 list. In 2022, Resilia announced a Series B funding round, making Sevetri one of the few Black women in history to raise nearly $50 million in venture capital. Sevetri's entrepreneurial journey began with the founding of Solid Ground Innovations, a nonprofit management and strategic communications agency. Her leadership and impact have garnered numerous accolades, including being named to Inc. magazine's 100 female founders building world-changing companies and PitchBook's list of 27 leading Black founders and investors in 2019. In 2010, Sevetri received the prestigious Nobel Prize for Public Service and the Jefferson Award, and her work was highlighted in a U.S. Senate report to the White House on volunteerism during President Obama's administration. A best-selling author, Sevetri's second book, Resilient: How to Overcome Anything and Build a $1 Million Business with or Without Capital, became a Wall Street Journal bestseller upon its release in 2021. She is a powerful advocate for historically underserved communities, with her work being featured in outlets such as USA Today, Time Magazine, and CNN. Show some love in the chat and join me in welcoming Sevetri Wilson Taylor.
So, Sevetri, we are so honored to have you with us tonight. You know, when I think about you and your work, you are truly a trailblazer and an innovator. And I would love to hear where it all started. So, what is your earliest memory that sparked your passion for entrepreneurship?
So, I would say probably my earliest memory, I would say my grandfather, my father. I am a granddaughter of a Black farmer. And my grandfather used to not only have cattle and pigs, and we had fig trees and a sugarcane field, and he used to sell, right, the produce and products that generated from that farm. And so that's probably my earliest memory of entrepreneurship. And then my father, my late father, was a cement worker, and he started his own cement company. And just seeing him working day in and day out with his men, also another early memory of entrepreneurship for me.
Well, you've done so much. I mean, from the venture capital that you've raised to the organizations and businesses that you founded, what has kept you motivated to beat the odds, especially in many places where you've been doing it as the first?
Yes. Oh, man. I would say probably one of my biggest motivators is the fact that I've had this mentality of I just won't be denied. And we always have to kind of prepare the table for the person behind us, right? And so if no one prepared it for me, I'm going to make sure that I prepare for the next person, to be able to sit and enjoy the fruits of the labor of the person that was in front of you. And oftentimes I feel like that hasn't been the case for me. And sometimes it has been the case. But I am highly motivated for just the purpose and the reasoning behind how do you ensure that whoever's coming behind you has it just a little bit easier than what you had. And so that is definitely a big motivator for me.
When I think about your work in tech and even in social entrepreneurship, and you talked about opening this door, making ways for the people who are coming behind you, why is that so important? And how do you see your work leading to those doors being open for others?
Yeah, I'm a Black woman from the South, and I feel that we just didn't have a lot of representation in the South and in Louisiana of women, of Black women, of women of color doing anything in tech. Nevertheless, when I think about my journey to date and where I've come from, is because I envisioned something or I saw a path somewhere. And oftentimes people say, oh, well, who told you you could do that? I was like, no one, right? But no one told me I couldn't do it either. And so I've always been motivated by the fact that if I could dream it, if I could realize it, I would then put in the work to get there and to execute against it. And if it's for me, then it would be for me. And so all these different things are just motivating factors for me, as well as being very driven from my roots and from, my family, and them also being hard workers and not have been given a silver spoon, but they had to go out there and get it, or otherwise, they would be denied of what rightfully are the opportunities that we should have, just like everyone else.
I love that. And it's beautiful to see how the story, the lineage from your grandfather to your father and to now your work, which is really leveraging tech in an industry that oftentimes Black and brown women of color, like we are not always at the forefront of this. And so when I think about our global community at Women Empowering Nations and so many young women who are interested in the intersection of social impact in tech, what is going to be important for them to have a chance at leadership? What should they be thinking about now, doing now to prepare for the future?
Yes. And so particularly, I always talk about how do we enter tech? How do we innovate? How do we think about being on the forefront of new technologies in general? And I think that we had to have to move from a consumer mindset to a builder mindset. I always joke about like, oh, there's a reason why the CEOs of these Fortune 10 companies and these behemoth tech companies don't allow their kids to be on social media, although they create the social media channels, right? For us to be on, is because they are trying to think about the future for their children in a space that allows them to be builders and not just constantly consuming. And so I think that we definitely want to continue to ensure that we have that same mindset, particularly in this new space of AI and how artificial intelligence will begin to change how we work, how we interact, right? Will people be displaced? Will their jobs be displaced? I think more so you'll have people who know how to yield and wield that technology. And those who do understand that will be the ones to get the job, right? And so I'm constantly thinking about how we don't get left behind, and how we too are on the forefront of building that type of technology and just innovation in general.
Right. When I think about AI and the future, and oftentimes how we do get left behind, maybe out of fear of getting into figuring out what's happening and thinking certain things and dispelling myths. But honestly, it's the people who are learning how to utilize it who won't be put out of a job. And so it is so important that we all dig in, and older women to younger women invest in learning more about how to be builders. When we think about this community here at Women Empowering Nations, we have girls in 40 plus countries around the world and really believe in building across lines of difference. And when I think about your companies and what you created and the global impact that you make in your work, why do you feel it is so important for us to be exposed beyond our own communities, beyond our own cultures, and building leaders who will drive towards the same type of innovation that you're talking about to shape our future?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that question, because I do feel that it has been because of the exposure I've had, from people that have been outside of my circles who have introduced me to things that I didn't even know existed, right? And so I remember going off to LSU, and originally I was a communications major, but then I would go and sit in my professor's offices and I would ask them questions, and they was like, "Oh, well, have you heard about this?" When I first had an idea to start my first company, my professor was like, "Oh, well, have you went and incorporated that company? Do you have an LLC? Do you?" I was like, "What? Like what?" I didn't even know he was speaking a whole different language to me. But they exposed me to spaces and places that I had never knew of. One of my mentors, I had opportunity to go to Orange Beach or something, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to ensure that your flight is covered." And so I began to like network with people, and through those networks, they introduced me to spaces that I had not even heard of and didn't know existed. And I do believe that exposure allowed me to have a more global thinking around like the work and opportunity and what existed in the world in general. And it really just opened up my mind to the possibilities of how big this could really get, right? Like how if everything went the way you wanted to, if you had the right resources, right? Oftentimes people don't know what they need, because they've never been exposed, right, to what's available to them or what could be available to them if they had access.
One of my favorite taglines is that exposure expands expectations. And listening to you talk, listening about your journey of persistence, of network building, of seeing possibility when it's just an idea is so inspiring. And I love that you brought in this concept of the relationships that you built, the networks that brought you to this next level. What would you say is the key to sustaining those relationships or networking for some of our young women who are like, I'm a little bit of an introvert. I like to stay behind the scenes. Why is this so important on their leadership journey?
Yes. So, you know what? When I listen to like young women and even older women, right? And they're like, "Oh, well, I didn't have the network. I don't know these people. Like, how do I introduce myself?" I'm like, I'm the worst person to make excuses to, because, like I said, from the South, non-technical, built a tech company, definitely didn't have a silver spoon. So everyone that I met along the way, I had to walk up to and introduce myself, and they didn't know who I was, right? I had no idea who I was or what I was doing and what I was working on. And many of them took chances on me and they took a bet. But I would tell people, do just that. For me, I'll give a very specific example. When I started my first company, I was 23 years old, and I was like, okay, now I need to go out and find clients. So I had the ambition, and just like greenness of a 23-year-old, like, oh, I could take my skills and build this company, not knowing what I was going to face. And where I started is that I started reaching out to my elected officials, so public servants that were around me, and I would reach out to their office and say, "Hey, can I just get like 30 minutes with you? I would love to talk to you." What I realized is that these elected officials and politicians have to raise money, right? They have to fundraise, and they know everybody. They know the business owners, they know the healthcare workers, they know the grassroots organization leaders, they know everyone. And so those 30-minute conversations, they would say, oh, have you talked to this person? Have you talked to that person? I didn't know who these people were, but I will reach out to those people that they were pointing in the direction of and schedule meetings with them and would tell them about my services. And some of them said yes, some of them said no, but they were the first people that opened doors for me, and they didn't know who I was, but they knew I was ambitious. They knew that, I had a plan. I communicated that plan to them, and they were willing to take a bet. And so I always tell people, like, get out here and network, and don't just say like, oh, well, no one knows me, or, I can't get to this person, or I can't get into that person. I promise you, if you have that resiliency and that consistency, and you're determined to, and you're prepared to, you will break through those doors.
Wow. Such solid advice for us older women, younger women, to stop making excuses and get out there and introduce ourselves. So, Sevetri, as we think about your legacy, and we're honoring you tonight with a legacy award for the impact that you have already made on the lives of young women around the world, what do you want for your legacy to be as you look into the future? What would you like to leave behind?
Yeah, I would say when I think about my legacy, it's truly people saying, Sevetri, she showed up for a community. She showed up for women. She showed up for young girls in a way that they have remembered in skill sets that they could use for years and years and pass down. I'm really intentional about that with the work that I do with my college, with the work that I do with inside of my sorority and other organizations that I'm a part of. It's like, what tangible thing can I pass down to someone else? And then they too can then pass that down to someone else and the next person. And so how can my legacy be magnified, right, through the goodwill of other people? And so that has always been something that I deeply believe in, is that just be good to people, have goodwill in the work that you do, and everything else will fall in place.
Absolutely beautiful. And you share so much of your knowledge about your entrepreneurial journey in your book. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about your book, where people can pick that up, to learn more about you and your work, and to follow you.
Yeah, so I do have a book called Resilient. And that book essentially walks individuals through my journey as an entrepreneur, my ups and downs, highs and lows, and everything in between, raising capital, bootstrapping my company. You can find that book where books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, anywhere that you can purchase a book, you can also get that book as well. And so for those who've read it, thank you. For those where it's first time you're ever hearing about it, definitely pick it up. Would love to hear your thoughts on it, and potentially, follow up and see how I can make the next book, if I write one, even better.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Sevetri. I honor you, I celebrate you, and I'm so grateful for the legacy that you're living out.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate your support.
As an entrepreneur, hearing Sevetri's journey blows me away. Thank you, Sevetri, for building a legacy that allows young women to learn and grow from your example. In honor of Sevetri's impact, consider making a donation in memory or in honor of someone who inspires you. Just click the donation link in the chat. Your gift will help continue paving the way for the next generation of leaders.
So, as we think about tonight, we are committed to building networks and bridges to close the gap of access for our young women. Oftentimes, when we're talking about this next step in our career, many of you women that are here with us tonight, you know that your network, it correlates to your net worth. It correlates to the opportunities that are provided to you, the ways in which we are able to come together as a community and to support each other, to navigate systems and to transform systems. And there is no one better to talk to us about this than our upcoming honoree. Janae, I'm going to turn it back to you to do the honor of introducing this legendary game changer that I'm so excited to talk to tonight.
Let's keep it going. I have the honor of introducing our next Legacy Award winner, Minda Harts. Minda Harts is a celebrated author, influential speaker, and a leading voice in the fight for workplace equity, particularly for women of color. She is best known for her best-selling books, The Memo, Right Within, and You Are More Than Magic, which have empowered countless women to advocate for themselves and navigate the complexities of corporate environments. Minda is a trusted expert on self-advocacy, workplace inclusion, and restoring trust at work. As an assistant professor at NYU's Wagner Graduate School of Public Service and the founder of the Memo LLC, Minda shapes future leaders and inspires professionals to champion equity and diversity in their organizations. Her impact has been recognized on numerous platforms, including being named LinkedIn's #1 top voice for equity in the workplace in 2020 and one of Business Insider's top 100 people transforming businesses in 2022. Currently, Minda is working on a new book that addresses the critical issues of restoring trust in the workplace, continuing her mission to reshape the corporate world for future generations. Drop some fire in the chat if you're ready for the one and only Minda Harts to come to the stage.
So I'm so excited to be here with you tonight and am really honored to be in your presence because your work has opened doors. You are a trailblazer who's really opened doors for women to show up in the workplace. With your book, The Memo, you talk about these experiences and ways that women of color can navigate various environments. And I'm curious to know what early experiences for you sparked your passion to break barriers and to create opportunities for more women of color.
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much for seeing me and for the work that you do. I'm honored to be sharing the virtual stage with you. Right? So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is those early experiences that help shape us. And I think for me, I was always surrounded by very strong Black women, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and just seeing how hard they worked to try to make lives better for each generation. It really was something that I sat and thought, how can I be a beneficiary, or how can someone be a beneficiary of my courage and my voice? Because I'm a beneficiary of my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my mother. And so it really just, as I got older, it was really important for me not just to be getting my seat at the table, but making sure that I'm bringing others along with me.
That part about bringing others along with you with our seats at the table, you talk about in many of your books and when you're speaking about advocating for our space, the importance of asking for what we deserve, from salary negotiations to leadership opportunities. How do you think empowering Black women, Black young women specifically, to confidently articulate their value can help accelerate their career paths, especially in industries where we're often underrepresented?
Absolutely. I came across this quote many, many years ago by Audre Lorde, and it's one of my favorite quotes. And she said, "Beware of feeling you're not good enough to deserve it." And when I heard that quote, or read that quote rather, I thought, Minda, you deserve humanity, dignity, equity, and respect. And so do the other Black women that work alongside of you or in other industries. And for me, it was really important to say, okay, part of the equation that we can solve is how we use our voice, right? I can't control if somebody on the other end says yes to me or not, but I can control how I show up for me. And I can control if I show up for myself or not. Right? So self-advocacy is one of our biggest assets. It's also part of our self-care. I don't think that people often realize that self-advocacy is tied to self-care, because if we're not advocating for ourselves and articulating our value and quantifying our worth, then nobody that works with us or that we report into is going to know what we want, right? Nobody's going around with a crystal ball saying, what is it that these women want? We have to actually let them know, because as you and I both know, if we don't articulate our value and say, hey, this is what my boundaries are, this is where I'm headed, then we'll be doing all kinds of jobs that don't get us closer to our career path. And so when I was younger, I got this really poor advice that said, say yes to everything. And while I was saying yes to everything, it was pulling me further and further away from my career aspirations. I was doing everything for everybody else, but not getting closer to my seat. And once I realized that two things can be true, I can say yes to the things that also align with my values and my voice and my advocacy. And so don't let anybody steal your advocacy, not even yourself.
I love that. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, that voice that we're telling ourselves in our head that we don't deserve it before we even open our mouths to ask. When I think about the next generation of young leaders and many of the women that we work with Women Empowering Nations all over the world, as they enter into workplaces and we think about the ways in which you support women in healing from trauma in the workplace and advocating for equity in workplaces. Many times we can talk about what we have to do as women to navigate these systems, but what are some of your thoughts on how companies and organizations can begin to grow to foster inclusivity as well?
Yes, it's important that just because we all work at the same place doesn't mean we experience the workplace the same. And so I think that people in positions of power or positions of privilege have to understand that just because you're not experiencing ageism, just because you're not experiencing sexism or add any ism there doesn't mean that it's not taking place. And so the goal isn't to point the finger at somebody who may be exhibiting these behaviors, but it's how do we remove barriers for people instead of creating more? Because if we're all being able to do our best work, then that's better for productivity, that's better for the bottom line, and then it provides less burnout. And so creating a workplace that works for everybody is beneficial to the bottom line. And so what my hope is that companies will understand if you are advocating for Black and brown women, if you are showing up for them, then you're getting even more. Think about how much of a rock star we are sometimes, even in the most toughest situations, right? So if those barriers were removed, think about how much we could really fly and soar. And so again, if we want a workplace that works for everybody, then you have to understand that the intersectionality piece. And again, was a day when we weren't able to talk about race, gender, and identity the way that we can now. And so my goal is that we continue to do it and that we don't stop, all gas, no break.
I love it. All gas, no break. When I think about inclusivity, and one thing that we are super big on at Women Empowering Nations is exposure, global exposure. Our young women come from all over the world, building these relationships beyond borders, beyond cultures, and across lines of difference. How important is that for young people nowadays to be exposed? And what will that mean potentially in the future for the workplace, for leadership in these environments?
Absolutely. I think that's part of our when we talk about upskilling, right? You also have to think about it from a global lens. And right now I'm working on my next book called Talk to Me Nice, the 7 Trust Languages for a Better Workplace. And when I thought about writing this next book, I thought, what is a global language that each and every one of us needs to do our best work, to be our best selves, to be our healthiest selves at work? And it's trust. Whether you are in Japan or you're in Alabama, whether you are tall or short, right? Trust is a key component of how we do our best work. And if we're going to spend 90,000 hours of our lives in the workplace and we expect trust to be important in our platonic and romantic relationships, then it's just as important in the workplace. And so for me, having a global lens, understanding those key competencies that, again, whether you're working abroad or you're working, in your local town, that you have that skill set because now with hybrid work schedules, we are engaging with our colleagues that are abroad if many of us work, in global roles. And so it's important that if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So what are the things that you could be doing right now to put in your toolkit to say, hey, if there's ever an opportunity for me to do business abroad, am I ready, right? It starts off with, do I have a passport, right? Check. Do I have the business competencies to be able to engage in these sorts of deals? And so for me, when I was younger, it was important for me to see who are the people that are doing what I want to do and what are the skill sets that I need to acquire. And one of those, to be a global person and stand on a global stage, was taking public speaking courses because I am an extreme introvert, which a lot of people don't know, but that shouldn't stop us from being able to be on a global stage, right? And so for me, I'm building those competencies. And so I would encourage our young women to do the same, right? Do the things that scare you, ask for the things that you can't even imagine you doing right now, but your future self will thank you for it.
I love it. And thinking about scaling what you have created, I heard that you have a book that's turning into a movie. Can you tell us a bit more about this and what's happening with the Memo next?
Yes, it's so interesting, planting those seeds, right? You just never know what you will be doing that could, again, be a beneficiary down the line for many, many people. And so a book that came out, 5 years ago called the Memo, my first book, What Women of Color Need to Know to Secure a Seat at the Table, 5 years later is now being optioned and adapted into a short film, which we're also in talks about creating a limited series. And so there's a lot of fun things. For those who know Kyla Pratt, she is playing me. And I'll tell you, being on set when we were filming and somebody saying, Minda, Minda, I'm like, wait, this is weird. They're calling Kyla Minda. They're calling me Minda. They're like the real Minda, the big Minda. And it's just, you just never know the work that you do, the courage that you step into, what it will provide. And now the Memo is going to be living its next life. So if any of you are going to be at Sundance in January, you can catch the Memo.
That is so amazing. And Minda, while we're talking about this span of just 5 years ago that you wrote that book, and now you're working on your third book, you've got a movie coming out. When you think about your legacy and what the future holds for you, what do you want for people to remember?
I love this question so much. For me, I don't want people to say, wow, she was a hard worker, right? I want people to say that she was kind, she was generous, and she created more seats. She was a seat creator. And if I can be a role model to do it, to show others that we don't have to be in competition, but we can be in collaboration, I'll have lived a good life, because I think people need to be reminded that success is not a solo sport. And so I hope I leave a legacy to show that there's enough for everybody.
Absolutely beautiful. I'm so honored to be in your presence. I want people to know where they can follow you. Everyone here is going to get some resources after this event with where to connect with your work, but let the people know, where can we find you? Where can we follow you?
Again, just thank you for seeing me. When I got the notification, I was just so humbled and honored. As you know, we don't do this work for the trophies, right? But when you are acknowledged and when you are seen, it just definitely feels so good. So thank you to those on the committee, and just to you for seeing me. And for all of you, please go to mindaharts.com and find me where you like to play on your social media streets.
Awesome. Thank you, Minda. Have a great night.
You too.
Speaking of advocacy, one of the most powerful ways we shift the world is through storytelling. At WIN, we emphasize this in all of our programs, including our Glow Rise initiative.
Let me jump in really quick, Janae, to be sure our audience knows more about our programs and what we do to build the next generation of social impact leaders. So let me make it simple for you. If you just joined tonight, if you have been here the entire evening, I want you to walk away crystal clear on what we do and what it means for young women around the world. At Women Empowering Nations, we're focused on providing leadership development rooted in holistic care, mental well-being, storytelling, advocacy, and global exposure to build the pipeline of young women who are leading for systemic change around the world. We're set apart because Women Empowering Nations focuses on young women of color. We have a core vision to build global exposure and connection and relationships beyond borders, supporting their journey towards advocacy and community service within their own local context that spans into how we connect internationally. Lastly, this is about holistic development, both personally and professionally, to support their journey. We do this through our GLOW cohort. You heard from a lot of our alumni tonight. It is a 3-month virtual leadership development experience, and it is custom designed, unlike any other out there, to provide global exposure and executive coaching from some of the most game-changing experts in the industry. To date, we've had more than 4,500 young women apply for this cohort. We've selected 200 leaders across 19 countries who have completed our cohort. And as this demand continues to grow, we're excited to build and expand our capacity and resources to meet this demand. Our membership is intentionally diverse. We take 50% from global communities, and 50% of our cohort members are from the United States. You can see the global composition that spans across the world and several continents that makes up our GLOW Global cohorts that we've had to date. Our outcomes have led to 100% of our alumni sharing an increase in their personal well-being, their confidence in self-advocacy, their values-based leadership, community leadership, and awareness about local and global inequities that allow for them to build strategies for transformative change. So where are they now? Our young women are leading in roles in the public and private sector, from the White House to the World Bank, to Microsoft and beyond. As I mentioned to you, we have worked with the best of the best in developing the curriculum and what our young women see in the space. We've worked with trailblazing social impact leaders, the top industry leading business leaders. We've also been supported by trailblazing journalists to inform our storytelling curriculum for our young women. In addition to the global cohort, we have school-based programs. And through those, we provide weekly structured lessons and activities, weekly mental well-being support, parent resources, field lessons, and membership in our GLOW network. We package our curriculum and support community-based organizations and schools across the country and across the globe in bringing holistic leadership development to their middle and high school students. Our GLOW Travel Seminar, which you saw a bit about earlier tonight, it allows for us to bring together network members in service leadership and global exposure. We have been to Senegal, Gambia, Morocco, the Netherlands, Tanzania, Ghana, and South Africa, providing these opportunities for young women, and we would love to come to a country near you. Our leadership summits. We have annual virtual convenings similar to what we're doing right here tonight to bring together young women from all over the globe to be exposed to transformational workshops exploring social change, economic justice, women's empowerment, and leadership. So lastly, what brings us all together continuously after our young women leave those programs? How do they stay connected with Women Empowering Nations? We have the GLOW Network virtual community. If you know a young woman, or if you are on this call and are a young woman ages 15 to 23, we want for you to join our network. We have service and leadership opportunities there, engaging group discussions, live sessions, weekly resources, and networking with career and scholarship opportunities. So head on over. It is free to join our network. We have young women from all across various backgrounds within our network. It is an intentionally diverse, unique space to push towards global perspective and learning. We can see this community is built up of leaders across the United States, spanning 80 cities, across 37 states, and even across the world. We're spanning 40 countries with our global virtual community. Now, here's the vision for 2030. We want to serve 250,000 young women globally by 2030. That's doubling the amount of access to our global cohort, expanding school partnerships, establishing university partnerships, and even being able to license our program curriculum to 100 community-based programs for young women. If you are someone who can support us, we encourage you to join us to become a partner in this work. You can become a partner by connecting with us to learn more about how your organization can get engaged. You can become a corporate sponsor or an individual donor. You can see some of our individual donors that we are shouting out in the chat right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you for supporting our work as we build the next generation of social impact leaders.
We are equipping young women not only to lead, but to own their stories and advocate for change. One woman who knows the power of storytelling is our next Legacy Award winner, Luvvie Ajayi Jones. Luvvie Ajayi Jones is a 4-time New York Times bestselling author, speaker, and book coach who excels at the intersection of culture, business, and leadership. With 4 critically acclaimed bestsellers, including Professional Troublemaker, The Fear Fighter Manual, Luvvie has become a literary force. Her expertise as a marketer and author inspired her to create the Book Academy, a platform designed to coach aspiring and established authors to publish their works. Luvvie is also an internationally recognized speaker whose thought leadership on culture, authenticity, and disruption drives transformative action. Her TED Talk, Get Comfortable with Being Uncomfortable, has been viewed over 9 million times, translated into 23 languages, and ranks in the top 1% of all TED Talks. Her children's book series, Little Troublemaker, has become a hit, with 2 more editions scheduled for release in 2025 and 2026. In addition to her best-selling books, Luvvie has contributed to various anthologies and written for publications like the New York Times, Elle, and Essence magazine. Her work has also been featured in NPR, Forbes, Fortune, and Fast Company. Born in Nigeria, raised in Chicago, and comfortable everywhere, Luvvie enjoys relaxing in her plush robe with a bowl of jollof rice in her free time. Let's welcome Carlisha and Luvvie to the stage.
Luvvie, your whole career has been just a masterclass on authenticity and vulnerability. And I want to ask you, how has embracing authenticity helped you break down barriers? And how can we encourage and inspire other young women to do the same?
So, embracing authenticity has been the journey that I've been on since my career started. I started blogging when I was in college, but basically writing out loud has been a 21-year journey. And throughout, I have been rewarded for the ways in which I have maintained my integrity, the ways in which I have insisted that I have been truly myself, because I think it's the reason why I've been able to stand out. It's the reason why people come to my platforms. It's the reason why I got the book agents that I got, because they just simply love my voice. For me, authenticity is not an exercise, it's a necessity, because that has been what has made me stand out in fields of other brilliant voices. So yeah, my career has been, it's unfolded as it has, both the good and the bad from my authenticity. And I think the good always outweighs the bad, right? People are often afraid of what happens when they're too much like themselves, or what happens if people don't like them. And I think for me, what has happened is I've been rewarded by being surrounded by people who are aligned with my values, people who believe deeply in the work that I do and my voice, and people who've championed me, even when I'm not in the room. So yeah, it's been barrier breaking, life changing, career making for me to insist on being authentically me.
And so it's beautiful to watch your journey and to watch the power of your storytelling and the ways you show up. It almost gives permission, or invites, that's a better word. It invites other people to do the same. And several of our girls nominated you. They were excited about you being featured in this space and cite you as an inspiration. We have girls from all over the world: Ghana, Nigeria, the UK, the US. What words of inspiration would you give to them to be able to show up authentically as you have?
No, I am honored to be seen. I'm honored that so many girls thought to speak my name up in those rooms that brought me here. So, words of inspiration for them. The world can be tough on girls and women, especially when we are not a particular look or a particular skin tone. The world can try to convince us that we are not enough. It will often try to convince us that we need to be quiet, as it disrespects us, as it harms us. And one thing that I want to make sure that everybody who's listening to this, watching this, knows is that your silence is not required. Actually, I want your silence to take a back seat to your voice, because the world has been so used to our silence when it does not treat us like it should. Systems and people count on our silence to continue to cheat us. And then we're told that we're supposed to be nice. And nice usually means leaving who you are behind to make other people feel better. It's not worth it. What we're supposed to be is not necessarily nice. We're supposed to be kind. Kind is more important than anything else. Kind means I am trying to do what is right. It means I am speaking up for myself and those who might not. It means I am being selfless to those who have earned my selflessness. It means that I am not just telling people, oh, it's raining outside. To be kind is to say, hey, I have an extra umbrella. Would you like to borrow it? kind is more important than nice any day. So any place and any space and any person who is asking you to be nice when it's to your detriment is not somebody who is wishing for the best for you. And you can definitely do the opposite. You can speak up. So as you're going out into the world, understand that being a bold woman, being somebody who insists on using their voice, being somebody who insists on taking up space, there are gonna be people who don't go like you. Just know that. Just off jump. You didn't do anything wrong, but show up and be your excellent self. On the strength of that, there'll be people who don't like you. There'll be people who might try to even sabotage you. Here's the thing you have to understand. Those people are not your people. If they don't like you because you're embodying the best version of yourself, that's not your people. You're not supposed to constantly try to get their favor. Your job on this earth is to honor God, is to honor purpose and honor self. It's not to make everybody like you. It is not to make sure that you're the nicest person in the room, which means you're the most, what's the word I like to use for that? It basically means you're a doormat. And you have this one life to live, and you were not born to be somebody else's doormat. Like, you are too loved by the divine to be somebody else's doormat. So all that is to say, one, understand that your job is not to be nice. It is to be kind. To be kind is to give back. It's to make sure your fellow human being is being treated well. It's to make sure that you are walking as the best version of yourself, best neighbor, best friend, right? Best coworker. And best does not mean nicest. Best does not mean I agreed with you every time. Best does not mean I swallow down what I have to say. And number two, use your voice. Like, in the times when people are not honoring what they should, you can push back. You can do it thoughtfully, because the truth does not have to be brutal. But you can do it thoughtfully. So use your voice. And if you're ever harmed, you don't have to turn the other cheek. You do not have to silence yourself to make other people feel better when you're suffering. That's so important. And I think because we are so told that that's what we're supposed to do, it's ingrained in us, it's embedded in us. That is work that adults are even trying to unlearn. So I hope you unlearn it earlier than we did. So yeah, and just know there's another troublemaker running around, being loud, being bold, being voiced on your behalf. So you're not alone.
You know, speaking of troublemaker, this is often something you talk about, you write about. I think I just read that you have a new book coming out. Speaking of children learning this at a young age, tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about your children's book that's launching and what we can look forward to. There's many of us on here tonight who are mothers like me. I got 3 little ones, and I want them to know this early. So tell us a bit about
Yeah. So many of us have names that teachers have mispronounced and kids teased. And oftentimes we don't get defended. And there are times when we've defended ourselves and got in trouble. So that's why I'm excited about this next book, which is called Little Troublemaker Defends Her Name. It is a picture book about little Luvvie, and it's her first day of school. She's nervous. She introduces herself to the classroom, and one of the kids teases her. My girl pops off because she's gonna defend herself, and then gets in trouble because the teacher hears her popping off, but didn't hear the tease. So throughout the day, she's hurt. Her feelings are hurt. Her mom brings her lunch. And when her mom does that, she tells her she's upset. They have a conversation with the teacher, and the teacher apologizes to her. And the kid who bullied her apologized to her too. And they actually became friends. She had the best day ever. And I basically wrote that book for those of us, and I know there are people on this call, those of us whose names were never on the mugs and the keychains, those of us who never saw ourselves represented in those stores, and you look and you're like, dang, my name is not there again. Those of us whose names have been made to feel too different. I wrote that book to have us recognize early. I want the young ones to especially get it now that, one, your name is not too heavy. It's not too heavy. Two, everybody deserves to have their name pronounced properly every time. So you can correct somebody if they don't get your name right. You can say, hey, excuse me, this is how you pronounce it. My name is Luvvie Ajayi Jones. My last name is Ajayi Jones. I just became a Jones 5 years ago when I got married. But that Ajayi part be giving people all sorts of flux. And I'm just like, why are you creating burden from something that doesn't have burden? Why are you making my name a burden for you when it's so easy? So I wrote that book to make sure we all feel seen, to heal the part of us that doesn't feel seen when we look and we don't see ourselves there, or the ones that the teacher, you've told your teacher 4 times how to pronounce your name, they still pronounce it wrong. Ask them the 5th time. Do it the 5th time. So I'm excited for Little Troublemaker Defends Her Name. This is what it looks like. This is the cover. I released the cover today. This is her.
I love it. I love it.
And it is now available for pre-order. People can go to everywhere books are sold or littletroublemakerbook.com. So I'm excited for people to get their hands on it.
And, it makes me think about the names that people can't pronounce and the ways in which Women Empowering Nations is building this global community of girls of the African diaspora, being exposed to global issues and culture and identities. Why is this exposure, global exposure, why is that so important to build the next generation of leaders?
Oh, it is so important because we all need to get used to understanding that everybody's name is not going to be Michael, John, Jessica, Jennifer. And I think our names are so significant because for me, as somebody who's Nigerian, Yoruba specifically, for us, names are sacred. Your name is a promise of your life's path. It's a prayer. It is a prophecy. It is, something that is really important. That's why for us, we don't speak the name of our kids until they're 7 days old and the name has been blessed. So a global community will show that everybody's names might be different. Our phonetics might be different. The tones might be different, but they are all valid and they're all to be carried with pride, not shame. And we all need to be open to recognizing that just because somebody's name is not Michael doesn't mean it's hard. Just because you've never seen that name before does not mean you can't pronounce it, because people will go, and you immediately know they're talking about your name because you're like, you don't even try. So a global network just allows that exposure, just makes us more open to other people's differences, open to other people's backgrounds and culture. And we need to embrace it, right? As opposed to question it as opposed to some people tease it.
When I think about your legacy, and especially with storytelling, and we talked about you inviting others on this journey of authenticity. This is an intergenerational audience here tonight, our girls from all over the world, but there's also women on this journey. And I'm curious as to how you would say that our older generation of Black women can help younger women to shape and share their stories in ways that their voices and experiences are honored as well.
Yes, I actually think those of us who are grown-ups now still need to do some childlike things. We actually need to heal our inner child for real, because there's wounds that we still carry from childhood, from the ways people dealt with us or didn't deal with us, the ways people didn't affirm us, that shows up in how we show up in the world too. Like, frankly, when I write Little Troublemaker, I'm really writing it for me. Like these kids' books that I've written them really to heal the part of me who was little, who never heard these words. The part of me who never was told, hey, you are not your biggest mistakes. Hey, even when you mess up, you're still lovable. Hey, you're worth defending. So I think for us as the grown-ups, I think we need to do some work to heal those pieces of ourselves that didn't get that. So I actually believe that a lot of the work we need to do is with the kids. I think we need to get back to knowing how to play. We need to get back to the childlike wonder of when something amazing happens and reveling in joy. I decided to wear yellow today. Yellow has become a power color of mine of sorts. Red is my signature color, as you can see behind me. But I love the color red. I've loved it since I was 3. But in this season, I am wearing more yellow than ever because I'm calling in more joy. And I think that allows me to show up better, and that allows me to relate better. And I think it's important that in a world that can be harsh, that we show that you can still have a lot of joy. So I use color to do it. That's why I'm wearing yellow today, the brightest yellow I could find.
Speaking of in a world that can be harsh, right now we are 1 week away from the election. And I know that you've been a very vocal advocate for social change and in this campaign process and supporting the journey. How have you balanced caring for yourself while advocating for change in our country?
So we can't leave ourselves behind, even when we are working really hard, even when we're doing really important work. And that looks like taking some time for myself. So if I'm online all day, I might log out and just ignore it for the rest of the day once I'm tapped out. Or I might choose to take a day off being online. Or I might just be like, you know what, I'm taking myself to the spa. I'm gonna go get a massage, a 2 hour one, not 60 minutes. I'm gonna spoil myself. I'm gonna get a facial, manicure and pedicure, and just taking the time. And also just finding people in spaces that are safe allows me to take care of myself. You know, we think about self-care, but there is no self-care without community care. And community care looks like surrounding yourself with people who energize you, make you feel like a deep breath, people who make you laugh a lot. That's all part of self-care for me. So I'm in my group chats cackling with my girlfriends. We sending each other memes. We're like sending each other links to funny things. All of that matters. So it's just all about not getting lost in the bad and knowing that there's always, always some good.
There is. And we know the power of your legacy, but I'd love to hear in your own words, what do you hope that people remember about your contributions, the impact that you've had on other people's lives as Women Empowering Nations honors you tonight with the Legacy Award?
Oh my gosh. I hope I am known as somebody who gives people the courage, the tools, and the words to take bold action that leaves them and the world better than they found it. I think it's that simple for me.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Luvvie, for joining us. We are so proud of all that you're doing, and our girls around the world are cheering for you right now in the chat. They have loved this conversation, and we just appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And I just invite you all to be in community with me through my books, through my podcasts. I am so emboldened knowing there's groups of women and girls all over the world who are all looking for ways to deepen not just community, but authenticity and purpose. And for me, when I am speaking up, even in the tough moments, I'm speaking up hoping that wherever you are, that my words can make your life a bit easier. So thank you for recognizing me. Thank you for wanting me in this space and for seeing me. That is something that I do not take for granted. So Carlisha, thank you so much for your work. Like, this is so important. And yeah.
Wow, that was powerful. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling all the energy to be bold and take up space. Thank you, Luvvie, for blazing trails. If you haven't already, share your takeaways in the chat. And if you haven't donated yet, now is your chance. Click the link in the chat to support WIN. With a gift of just $150, you can help support young women's journeys to discovering their voices and telling their story through our leadership development programs. Your contribution helps keep these opportunities alive for young women.
I don't know about you, but are you not completely inspired by these speakers? I want for you to drop in the chat, what are some of your gems from tonight? What are some of your takeaways? Blow it up. I've been seeing the comments come in throughout the night of what you're loving, the hearts and the reactions. Y'all, my cup is full. My cup was filled from these conversations and calls to action. Because what we saw tonight, what we heard tonight, it reflects the power and the potential when we invest in women. When we see what is possible, that we create, where we innovate, where we blaze trails and lead for innovation, where we change workplaces, where we allow for people to show up fully and authentically, the power of investing in women. And as we honored their legacies and looked at our rising stars and reflected on these last 15 years of Women Empowering Nations, it brings so much hope. There's power in those last 15 years, and there's also power in the future. As we think about Women Empowering Nations and where we are aspiring to go, we're aiming to reach 250,000 young women by 2030. With our leadership programs through our Girls Leading Our World Network, which is a global community providing resources, mentorship, and support for young women who are aspiring to be social impact leaders. all the way over to our GLOW Global Cohort, our in-school programs through GLOW Rise, as we're looking to partner with schools and community-based organizations who are looking for culturally competent curriculum that supports young women at the intersection of leadership and mental wellness. We are building bridges for global leaders to be exposed to so much more. But we can't do that without you. We're asking for you to be a part of this journey, to pull up a chair and sit at the table with us, because we know that collectively there's so much more that is possible. And while tonight we honored our past 15 years, our next 15 years are even brighter. I don't know about you, but I'm charged up. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to move forward. And I hope that we can count on you in our journey to do just that. Turning it back over to you, Janae.
We are now preparing to honor our final Legacy Award winner, Jotaka Eaddy. Jotaka L. Eaddy is the founder and CEO of Full Circle Strategies, LLC, a social impact consulting firm dedicated to advancing transformative change and creating global impact. Described as the Olivia Pope of Silicon Valley by Forbes magazine, Jotaka is a seasoned strategist with over 20 years of experience in policy, advocacy, and movement building. Her work spans corporate, nonprofit, and government sectors, where she helps organizations drive policy and social impact initiatives. Jotaka founded #WinWithBlackWomen, an intergenerational network of Black women leaders from various fields, which has garnered over 600 million social media impressions. The movement played a key role in the 2020 election, supporting the historic election of the first Black woman vice president of the United States. A trailblazer in Silicon Valley, Jotaka is one of the few Black women to have served in the C-suite of a tech company, advocating for diversity and social justice within this sector. She has lobbied at international forums such as the United Nations and played a pivotal role in the 2005 Supreme Court decision abolishing the juvenile death penalty in the U.S. As the senior advisor at the NAACP, she led major voting rights initiatives, expanding voting access for hundreds of thousands. An accomplished speaker and advocate, Jotaka has traveled extensively, lecturing on human rights and social impact across 49 states and 25 countries. Jotaka's work is a powerful reminder of the impact we can have when we come together to advocate for change. At Women Empowering Nations, that's exactly what we're doing. Building a global sisterhood that is driving change. Turning it back to you, Carlisha.
We're in this work for the long game. We're not just building individual leaders. At Women Empowering Nations, we are building a global community of advocates who are breaking down barriers, opening doors, and leading for systems change. This work is so important, and it is vital as we think about the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ahead at change for our upcoming generation. Our next honoree is a game changer. She is someone who I have deeply admired in the ways in which she has stayed the course. She has put in the work. She has brought together thousands of women in our commitment and support to understand that our voices matter, our advocacy matters, and that we can mobilize for social change. While Jotaka Eaddy is not able to be with us tonight, I want to extend a heartfelt congratulations and share reflections from our young women on the impact that she has driven in their lives and in their leadership, as she is our final Legacy Award honoree.
Hi, my name is Sino, all the way from South Africa. As director of Twist Foundation, I'm dedicated to empowering young people and women while combating gender-based violence and femicide in my community. I am inspired by Jotaka's extraordinary leadership. Her compassion, confidence, and resilience show me that vulnerability and strength coexist. She embodies excellence, lifts others up, and fights for justice. Her legacy inspires me to celebrate my identity, to speak up, and to pay it forward.
Hello, my name is Jada Rogers, and I'm a third-year law student at Case Western Reserve University School of Law. And I would just like to congratulate you for your leadership and dedication to policy, politics, and also the advancement of Black women. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Renita Opoku Sarfo and I'm a 2023 GLOW Global Cohort member. I'm also a former public servant in the federal government and an aspiring medical correspondent. Someone who walks in her purpose and inspires me every day is Jotaka Eaddy. She's not only igniting legislative and social change all across this nation, but she's making a global impact as well. A phrase that she embodies and often shares with others is to own your power and own your voice. We all have something that we can offer this world, and the worst thing that you can do is stand in your own way. Thank you, Jotaka Eaddy, for being the powerhouse of a woman that you are. You are truly an inspiration.
As we come to the end of tonight's program, I want to thank you all for joining us and for your generous support. We've reflected on where we've been, and now we look ahead to what's possible. With your help, the next 15 years of Women Empowering Nations will be even more transformative. If you haven't donated yet, it's not too late. Let's reach our goal of raising $150,000 tonight. Every contribution helps us continue empowering the next generation of women leaders. Over to you, Carlisha.
As we close out tonight, I want to give a personal thank you to those who have been a part of the journey of Women Empowering Nations from the very beginning. I want to thank my parents for allowing for me to dream big and to always encourage me on this pathway. A special thank you to Don Brown and Jason Lemon, who were there at the very beginning. They have been down for the ride, both literally and figuratively, from the origins of Women Empowering Nations, and their input and perspective has led us to where we are today. Our Women Empowering Nations board members, our Women Empowering Nations staff, thank you so much for continuing to push forward this mission and to support me on the journey. I'd also love to thank my husband and my children who allow for me to sacrifice pieces of my time to show up for young women all over the world. And lastly, thank you. Whether you donated tonight, whether you showed up to learn more, I appreciate you being in the room. If you are interested in plugging in to serve with Women Empowering Nations, if your company is interested in partnership opportunities, I would love to hear from you. We're dropping some information in the chat for those of you who are interested in learning ways that you can give back, you can partner, or could continue to give. We are so grateful to this community that we have been building. And this community also wouldn't be possible without the thousands of GLOW girls all around the world. I want for you all from this event to take up space, to be seen, to be heard, to be bold, and to lead. I know that the future is in your hands, and knowing so many of you, I know that it's bright. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Carlisha, and I agree. The future is bright. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful night.